Hola! Today we're going to talk about reflexive versus non-reflexive verbs. Now, you've probably already realized since we've been using reflexive verbs that not every single verb that we have or that exists is reflexive. So you can't just throw a may in front of every single thing that you use. So there are a couple different types of reflexive verbs. The first type are verbs that are things that you do to yourself. For example, lavarse, to wash oneself. So when you say me lavo el pelo, I wash my hair. The may here implies that you're doing it to yourself. Okay, as opposed to you washing a car. Lavo el carro. Because you're not washing yourself in this particular case, you do not need a may here. You actually can't have it. It would not make any sense. So let's take a look at the examples that we have here. Numero uno, I wash my clothes every Monday. Okay, so you have to think to yourself, are you doing this to yourself? If you're washing your clothes, you're not washing yourself, so this is what we would consider not reflexive. Numero dos, Mr. Bean washes his hands in the sink. So is he doing this to himself? Is he washing his own hands? Yes, so this would be reflexive. Okay, I want you to try and figure out the rest of these. Pause the video right now because the answers are going to come up in a second. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at these. The students wash their hair because they're doing this to themselves. It's reflexive. Numero cuatro, I wash my dog's hair. You're doing this to your dog, not reflexive. Numero cinco, she lies down. She's lying down herself. She's not putting a kid to bed or anything like that. Seis, I dress my dog in a colorful costume. Not reflexive. Halloween, I never dress as a clown because you dress yourself. Reflexive. My mother dresses. The mother is dressing herself, right? She's not dressing the kids. Also reflexive. Which correlates well to this one. My husband never dresses the kids. Because we're talking about kids here, the husband dressing the kids, not reflexive. Diez, Dad never shaves in the morning because he shaves himself. Reflexive. You shave your legs. Reflexive, doing it to yourself. We put our clothes in the locker. You're not putting clothes on yourself, you're putting clothes in the locker. Because of that, not reflexive. So we would not use pronouns for these ones that are not reflexive. Okay, we're going to add another step here. Now you have to not only decide whether each statement requires a reflexive pronoun or not, so what we did for the last activity, but you also need to figure out which one you need. If it doesn't need one, put an X, okay? So let's take a look at numero uno together. Yo blank levanto a las 6 de la mañana. So you have to think, okay, what is this talking about? Are you getting yourself up, or are they getting up someone else? In this case, you're getting yourself up. So this one does need the reflexive pronoun. So which pronoun would we use? Since our subject is yo, we're going to use me. Okay, let's take a look at número dos. Tú cortaste las fotos de la revista. So you cut the pictures in the magazine. You're not cutting yourself, you're cutting the pictures in the magazine. So this would not be reflexive, so we are going to indicate that by checking there. Okay, let's see número tres. Tú blank lavas las ventanas durante el invierno. So ventanas are windows, so you wash windows in the winter. So reflexive or not, what do you think? This is not reflexive. Okay, número cuatro. Tú lavas los pies antes de nadar en la piscina. So you wash your feet after swimming in the pool. So are you doing that to yourself? You are, so it's reflexive. Which pronoun would we use? So remember the pronouns we have are me, te, se, nos, os, or se. So for this one, because the subject is to, we would use te. Alright, I want you to finish the rest of them here. Pause it if you need to right now, because the answers are going to pop up and we'll go over them. Okay, let's see how you did. Número cinco, yo me baño. Y entonces, yo baño a mis hermanitos. Because in the first one, you're talking about bathing yourself, and then afterwards, you're talking about bathing your little brothers. So we need a me for the first one, and we don't need anything for the second one. Número seis. El viernes despierto a mis amigos con música. So you're waking up your friends, so no pronoun is needed for that one. Y Blink despierto muy tarde el sábado. So may for the second one. So may for this one. Número 7. Yo me miro en el espejo cuando me maquillo. So both of these would take may because you're looking at yourself in the mirror when you put on makeup yourself. And then 8. Siempre pongo la tarea en mi mochila. This one does not need the pronoun because you're putting homework in the bag. You're not putting the homework on yourself. Okay, next type of reflexive verbs. Some verbs are not reflexive and they mean one thing, and then when you use them reflexively, so with the me, te, se, no, sos, or se, they actually change meaning. So here is a list of ones that change meaning, whether they are reflexive or not. So let's run through the definitions of the non-reflexive ones first. Comer, we have to eat. Dormir, to sleep. Ir, to go. Llevar can mean to wear, or it can mean to carry. And then preguntar, to ask. Okay, now let's take a look at the meaning of the reflexive ones. So, comer, to eat. Comerse, to eat up. Okay, this would be like she ate up the entire cake, or she ate the entire cake. So that's when you're eating the entire thing or you're using something up completely. So dormir, to sleep. Dormirse, to fall asleep. Doesn't sound like a very big difference, but the moment that you fall asleep would be the reflexive one, dormirse. So I could say, me dormí a las 6. I fell asleep at 6, as opposed to dormí por 3 horas. I slept for 3 hours. So using it reflexively implies that you fell asleep. Here we have ir, to go, or we have irse, which is to leave or go away. So you could say me fui a las 2. I left at 2, as opposed to fui a las 2. I went at 2. So very similar, but you can use this reflexively. It's actually very common to see it with the me. Okay, next one we have llevar, is to wear or to carry. Llevarse actually means two things. It's commonly used to talk about people getting along. Okay, but it can also mean to take away. By take away, I mean like he took away the car. If you use it this way, you could actually say, él se llevó el carro. It would imply that he stole it, because he took it away. He left with it. He stole it. So it can mean to steal as well. And then the last one here we have preguntar, to ask. Preguntarse is to ask oneself. An easy translation for this one would be to wonder. So, like, me pregunto de la vida. I wonder about life, or I ask myself about life. So there's the other type of reflexive verbs, ones that actually change meaning when they are used reflexively. Okay, the last type of reflexive verbs are actually verbs that do not seem to be reflexive to English speakers, but they actually are. Okay, so here is a list of some of those examples. You'll see some of the ones that we've used before already on here. So they don't look like things that you do to yourself, so they don't really seem to make sense as verbs that we might use with these reflexive pronouns, but we do. Okay, so these are just kind of the ones that you have to remember. Okay, for the practice here, we're going to do the first 5 together, and then I'm going to have you finish up the last 5 yourself, okay? So, what we need to do here is just translate. The problem is some of these verbs are reflexive that we're going to use, and some of them are not. They incorporate a lot of vocabulary, even from the past 2 years that you've been learning. So we have to put a lot of things together here. So let's first decide if they're reflexive or not, and we'll just put an R or an N at the front. So, número uno, she eats a taco every day. Okay, so to eat, comer. Remember, one of the verbs that we can use reflexively is comerse, which is to eat up. So you have to decide, is this one reflexive or not? This one is actually not going to be reflexive. So I'll put a little N there to remind us we don't need a pronoun. Número dos, I leave at 5 o'clock. So which verb on your sheet means to leave? We can use irse. So this one is actually reflexive. Número tres, I fall asleep early. So remember, to sleep is dormir. To fall asleep is dormirse, so we have a reflexive one. Número cuatro, she forgets a lot. So do we have a verb that means to forget here? We do. Olvidarse, so this is a reflexive. And then I'm leaving for the store. What do we think? Yep, we could use this one reflexively as well. All right. I want you to try and translate these if you can using these verbs now. Pause it. Answers are going to pop up. Okay, here your answers are. Ella come un taco todos los días, so not reflexive. Me voy a las 5. It is reflexive. It's implying that you're leaving instead of just going. Tres, I fall asleep. Remember, reflexive. We have our pronoun. Don't forget dormir, stem changing verb in the present tense, not the preterite. So in the present tense, we have dormir is O, and it actually changes to a UE, but in the preterite tense, it actually is an O to a U, but not in the yo form. That's one of those sandal verbs, only the bottom two conjugations, as opposed to the boot verb in the present tense. Número cuatro, she forgets a lot, reflexive verb, se olvida, and then I'm leaving for the store. You can also use me voy to indicate that you're leaving somewhere, or they're leaving to go somewhere, and that's how you would use it here. So, kind of similar, me voy and me voy. Okay, pause it if you need more time. Okay, your practica is to finish these last 5. Type your answers into the notes here for each answer to get credit for the video. Okay, gracias y adiós.